Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about clairsentience. So everything you need to know about clairsentience is going to be in this video. I'm going to talk about what it is, how people experience it, how you can strengthen it or shut it off, and just different ways you can read using your clairsentience. Now, empaths, if you feel like you are one, you guys tend to be more clairsentient, so I'm also going to speak to that a little bit. But if you're new here and you're interested in psychic development and just understanding your abilities and how to strengthen them and protect yourself, subscribe to my channel. I do all sorts of videos on that subject. Now, I do want to say before I get into all this content that I do have psychic video courses up that you can access. So if you like all of this, but you just kind of want more, you want more context, and you want to know, okay, how do I actually start receiving information and using this to read myself or other people? Check out those courses because I go more in depth and I kind of have the whole entire overview of all of this in that course. So let's talk about clairsentience. Clairsentience is one of 6 clairs. So we have 6 clairs, and they are basically an extension of our 5 senses. And if you're not sure if it's a clair or not, because people make up the funniest sounding clairs, all you have to do is basically think about your 5 senses. So we have 5 senses: taste, touch, smell, seeing, and hearing. And your psychic senses are just an extension of those. So you have psychic taste, psychic touch, psychic seeing, psychic hearing, yada yada. Plus 1. That's the 6th clair is claircognizance, and I'll get to that in another video. But these are the ways in which we receive psychic information. So this is the how. It's not the what of the psychic information. It's not, the information itself. It's how you're actually receiving it. And everybody receives psychic information through one of 6 clairs. And these clairs can be individually strengthened, they could be shut off. Everyone has a more natural tendency towards like 1 or 2 or, all of them. And some people, the ones that they're more naturally talented at, maybe that's not their favorite and they don't want that and they want to kind of like steer towards a different one. And so understanding which clairs you receive with and then how to strengthen them or how to shut them off is super important when you're receiving psychic hits. So then you can make it more comfortable for you, you can make it more clear and more accurate. So when I say it's the how, it's basically when I ask a question, how is that psychic information coming through? And I kind of break down my description of like the how and the what and all of that in a different video. I'll link that up above if you're really new to all of this. So what clairsentience is, let's look at the word. It's a French word. Clair means clear, sentience means feeling. So clairsentience, clear feeling. And so if you are clairsentient, you usually pick up information through feelings, emotions, physical sensations. Some common experiences of clairsentience, I would say, are like chills down your body. Maybe it's just a specific part of your body. It's always in my back. Sometimes it's like full body chills. Sometimes you can experience like temperature changes, like really hot or really cold. Maybe it's again throughout your whole body. Maybe it's in a very specific spot of your body. I apologize if there's noises that you can hear. I can't do anything about it. They're doing construction on the house next to me. Now, I've heard a lot of people call this clair empath. That's not the right word. No, stop it. Empath, honestly, an empath basically is somebody who's empathic, somebody who feels everyone else's feelings. Now, technically, you could be empathic and be clairvoyant. Like, you see the other things that people are feeling. You hear, clairaudience, all of the different things that they are feeling. So empath technically could be all of the clairs, but I sort of categorize it as clairsentience because usually people who are empathic are picking up feelings and emotions, and that is a more clairsentient thing. So again, you're not clairempath, you are clairsentient. Again, it comes from that French word. People just make up clairs because they just don't understand. So clairsentience is the clair, it's the how, it's how you receive the information. If you are if you are a person that picks up a lot of emotions, feelings, all of this that I'm about to go through, then you are clairsentient. And I think empathic is also a substitute word here. You can be very empathic. You can be very clairsentient. I think those are 2 alternate words that basically mean the same thing. But if you find that you are empathic in a different clair, maybe separate that out. And if you're trying to describe a psychic hit, you would say, that was a clairsentient hit. That was a clairsentient message. Whereas in general, if you're describing it as a whole, Clairsentience is how I pick up psychic information. So the common ways that people pick up clairsentient information, there's a ton. The most common ways is emotions and physical feelings. So you just start taking on the emotions of somebody or around you. This could also be spirit. You feel other people's feelings. We talked about this in like my funeral video. Funerals can be very hard for clairsentient empathic people because you're picking up on other people's emotions and you're taking it on as your own. And the reason why empaths are labeled empaths is because it's really hard to understand such a physical sensation and draw the line between what's me and what's that other person or that other spirit. And because it's more physical, it feels more real. Whereas, clairaudience and clairvoyance, it's not physical sensations. So it's a lot easier to know, oh, this is psychic, if that makes sense. And again, I think that's why empaths are tending to be more clairsentient, not necessarily some of the other clairs. So you can experience like heat or coolness to the touch. It could be your whole body. It could just be a specific spot in your body. You could pick up on somebody else's like sickness and all of a sudden your knee could start hurting, but it's not your knee, it's somebody else's. You might get sick to your stomach. That might not mean that the other person is sick. It could just mean that you are picking up a bad feeling in the form of clairsentience and you need to kind of explore what that means. The hardest thing with clairsentient people is you have to really understand who am I, what am I feeling before I do a reading, and then, okay, what's the new information, what are those new feelings, so then I understand, okay, that's not me, that's this other person, or that's the psychic information coming through. Now, this isn't always negative. This could be positive things too. You could be picking up on positive feelings, emotions, sensations, but it could be negative. It could be pain, it could be anger, something like that. I would say that full body chills or just chills in general is a pretty common way that people pick this up. That's probably the most common way that I pick it up. I'm not very clairsentient myself. And then another way that it can be experienced is feeling like somebody's touching you. And I would say, if this is something you're experiencing, it's probably that you need to maybe shut this clair down a little bit so that you're not getting that touching sensation. Because this is how I experience spirits. I feel like a hand on my shoulder, and I'm not trying to like make anyone afraid or anything. I really want to be like clear so that if you're feeling any of these things, you don't feel crazy. And I feel like the most common ways I experience clairsentience is those chills, and it feels like a finger poking me on the back, or like, hey, somebody's like poking you. And there's been times where I've literally turned around because I was like, was that the cat? Was that somebody brushing up against me? And then it was nobody. And so everyone can experience clairsentience in all sorts of different ways. No way is wrong. You just have to pay attention. And if you aren't sure, just ask, is this a touch sensation or is it something else like seeing or hearing? Is it a physical sensation? And emotions are kind of categorized into clairsentience, but it can kind of cross into those other clairs. You just kind of have to ask in the moment. And sometimes you might not be able to figure it out, but the more you practice your clairs, the stronger they will get, and the more you'll be able to kind of understand, oh, okay, that was that clair. So I'm going to jump into now how to hone that clairsentient skill. So this is not like doing readings for yourself or anyone. These are basically just like exercises that don't really have an outcome. There's no real end goal. Whereas in a bit when I talk about exercises for reading, that's different. That's going to be like, okay, how do I actually use my clairsentience to get an answer to a question? Now, the first most simple thing that you can do that I feel like a lot of people just skip is just being mindful of your body. So every day as you go about your day, do kind of check-ins with yourself. Like pay attention to how you feel. Do you have pain in a specific area that day? Do you have emotions? Are you tense in some sort of way? And the more you're aware of yourself and kind of like checking in with yourself daily, the easier it is to separate you versus, somebody else's energy. You really just have to have general body awareness. And being more mindful of yourself and your body is just going to help you, again, determine what's you and what's not you. Now, the next one that everyone still hates me for is just taking care of your body. This one is the simplest way to kind of get your clairsentient strengthened if you're really wanting to feel things, but it's one that we often skip. And the best analogy that I can give is like, okay, if you're not taking care of yourself, let's say you're overeating or you're eating poorly, you feel sick to your stomach, maybe you just drank a ton and you're hungover and you didn't get enough sleep. Like, imagine what that feels like when you wake up. Honestly, I think this is one of the hardest parts of being psychic, is that when I have a reading the next day, when I have an event the next day, I know I have to take good care of my body, or else I can be in so much pain or just be so distracted by, you know, what's going on within me that I can't be present to, you know, focus on my abilities at all. And so, you know, taking care of your body is huge for this. And I know, again, it's annoying, but it makes such a huge difference to be able to connect to psychic information. And again, if we're going back to focusing on our body, one of the things that you can do is just try to do things a little bit differently. Like, walk around your house in a different way that you would, or try to use like your non-dominant hand. When you do things that are out of your normal routine, you're kind of doing like a pattern interrupt with your mind, and you're saying, hey, pay attention, body, I'm doing something different. And so when you're just doing that, you're focusing again more on your body and the physical sensations. And when you do things differently, you're bringing your awareness back to your body. And the more you can be aware of your body is essentially what these exercises are. The more you'll be able to, again, understand what's you and what's not. Now, if you watch my clairvoyance video, these are two exercises that are very similar. And one is to focus on affirmations of, I feel psychic information coming through, I feel my body. Again, put those in your phone, put them on an alarm so that you're constantly reminding yourself to pay attention to your clairsentience. It could just be an affirmation of, I am clairsentient, and you put that on a sticky note and you put it all around your house. It's more about constantly looking at it and reminding yourself of it. And it's like, through the law of attraction, the more you say it to yourself, the more it's going to happen. And then obviously there are also probably tons of hypnosis tracks out there on how to get in touch with your clairsentient abilities. I don't have any at the moment, but you can certainly go out there and find them, I'm sure, all around YouTube. Now, I have not actually tried, or no, have I tried it? I don't think I've tried this, but I've heard of tuning with wooden bowls. And I guess you get wooden bowls that are big enough to like put on your head or put on a certain body part. I wanted to share it even though I don't quite understand it, because maybe it'll work for you. But it's basically like tuning your energy, fixing your energy by focusing a wooden bowl around it. I feel like I'm not selling it very well, but the equivalent of this is like also doing like a chakra cleanse. Anything like that kind of like cleanses out your aura, which apparently wooden bowls do. Anything like that will also help you kind of cleanse your body so that you can feel more attuned with it. Reiki, for example, getting Reiki, I would say, is another awesome way to kind of hone your clairsentience, feel your body again, you know, really feel the sensations. And obviously giving Reiki is more of like the reading exercise that I'll get to in a second, but any sort of body work that you can do, yoga, qigong, any sort of like physical activity or exercise is definitely going to help with that clairsentient ability. It makes me curious, for those of you who are very like fit and like work out a lot, if your clairsentience is like more or less strengthened. Let me know. Another fun way is by getting these 90-day psychic cards. And I've talked about them a bajillion times before, but basically in the back there are these color cards. And what you can do is play Psychic Go Fish. And what you can do is lay these all out, kind of face down. You want to pull one card, flip it over, and this is the orange card. And what you want to do is feel the orange card. You know, put your hand above it, clairsentiently feel what this card feels like. And then once you kind of got it in your mind, okay, this is what orange feels like, and I think the other color in here is blue. You can again feel what the blue color feels like. Oh, okay, that's what blue feels like. And maybe again, it's like a vibration. Whenever I do this, it like my hand like moves in a certain way. And you know, but maybe it feels cold or hot or something like that. And then what you want to do is mix them all up. And again, pretend you pulled that orange card. And then you want to put your hand over all the different cards and say, okay, I'm going to feel for another orange card, because you want to play a Go Fish. You want to match that card. So I'm going to try to find another orange card, and you're going to move your hand over all of them. And when you think you find an orange card, you'll flip it over and see if you're right or not. But Psychic Go Fish can be used for any clair, and that's why I recommend getting this these 90-day cards, is because you can use this on so many different exercises. Now this is one of my favorite techniques for clairsentience, and you have to do it and give yourself the time to actually do it as well. And that is to find your energy. Where's your energy at? Find that awareness. And then what you want to do is find an inanimate object in the room, and you want to send your energy back and forth. So there's a piano in front of me, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my energy to that piano and feel everything about that piano. Feel what it feels like to be that piano. And then I'm going to pull my energy back and feel myself again. And I'm going to go back and forth and feel what that piano feels like, feel what I feel like. And it's crazy. It's just crazy doing this with an inanimate object, because it feels so different than your energy. And then, you know, you can practice this with actual people later. This can actually turn into an exercise of, okay, I'm about to read somebody. I need to sense their energy. I'm going to move my energy into their energy, if that makes sense, or their aura. You can also do this with crystals. And I feel like this is the best way to actually like meditate with a crystal and like take in its properties, if you really believe in them and feel like they work. And that is, you can send your energy into that crystal. You can leave your energy there. You can even match your energy to that crystal. Now, the meditation version of clairsentience, I would say, is focusing on your whole entire body, and doing whole body breathing. And you could probably search this online, but whole body breathing is just breathing into every single part of you, piece by piece, like starting with your head down to your toes, or vice versa. And by the end of it, you've kind of like felt every single part of your body. And that's kind of like the full meditation. And I love that meditation so much. Even just like in general, for just like calming down and getting rid of anxiety. So those are all the different ways that you can kind of just get in touch with your clairsentience. You're not necessarily doing it to like read or get information. You're just practicing feeling it, being aware of it. But now let's get into actual ways that you can read using your clairsentience. And so the point of this is like, I have a question, I want to know about something, I need to get an answer. I'm going to use this clairsentient exercise to do so. And with these exercises, remember to tell yourself, no, I'm not going to receive through any other clair. I am only focusing on clairsentience. And a lot of this, again, is about intention. So if you are telling yourself, I am clairsentient, I am going to receive this information clairsentiently, you really have to believe it. And when you believe it, it's going to happen. But if you're constantly saying, oh, clairsentience doesn't work for me, you know, I suck at it, then you're going to actualize it. So you really have to get into your head and start faking it until you make it. And basically saying, I am clairsentient, I am clairsentient. I'm going to get this clairsentiently. Now, the first thing that you can do that is sort of like a reading exercise is sort of like that exercise that I demonstrated with the piano. And it's sending a strong emotion or feeling towards a partner, or receiving it, vice versa. So you could send a strong emotion of like love or anger or, I don't know, sadness or something. And imagine embodying that and then sending it to your partner. And this partner is going to have to do the same thing back. And then what you're going to want to do is tune in throughout the day and say, okay, what energy is that partner sending to me? You're opening up to them. You're going to try to feel that energy that they're coming through with. And then you can check with them later and see if you were right or not. And that's a great exercise to do, because once you actually start getting into reading other people, you'll have already gotten familiar with, okay, what does it like to receive someone else's emotion? Now, another clairsentient exercise that I did, I actually go pretty in depth with it in my old video. So I will link it, and it's basically a ball exercise. And what you want to do is just feel the energy that comes out of your hands naturally. And a lot of people say this is Reiki energy. And what you want to do, and even now as I'm doing it, I can feel the energy between the palms. And it kind of has a vibration, and it kind of has a natural like tendency to like want to be a certain like size, if that makes sense. Like at first I was starting too small and I felt like it was pushing itself out. So now I'm kind of making it like a bigger ball. And what you can do is play around with this with yourself, but then also like passing it to another person or just both holding your hands to each other can be helpful, because then you're sensing each other's like energy that's coming from your palms. And so this is just a great way to get in touch with that. And you can feel the difference of what it's like if you want to pull out that energy and expand it, or if you want to push it together a little bit more tightly, see how it changes. And I do feel like this is a precursor exercise that you learn when you are studying Reiki. And I think that it's great and it's helpful. And if you really resonate with it, maybe try going to a Reiki class, because I think they are super helpful for understanding your clairsentience. Reiki, I think, is the best way that I ever got in touch with my clairsentience. And it's really sensing the energy in your hands and pushing it to somebody else, and then sensing what energy they're giving off, if that makes sense. Another exercise that you can do that's sort of a reading exercise is before you walk into a space, before you go into Walmart, before you go into a meeting or something like that, check the energy of the room. Like stand outside of it and be like, what does this room's energy feel like? Like, what am I about to walk into? And that's a great way of, not only practicing your clairsentience, but it's giving you information that might be useful about the space. Now, technically, a lot of these things you can use for any of the clairs. You just have to switch it and just be like, hey, I'm going to use this for clairvoyance now. But that's a great way to practice your clairsentient ability, because then you can also protect yourself knowing, okay, it's a little chaotic in there. I'm going to set my bubble while I'm out here. I'm going to go into the bathroom and do that. And then I can walk into that space and feel more protected. Now, another way that you can pick up psychic information clairsentiently is by using psychometry. And I have a whole video on this, but psychometry is basically saying, okay, I'm going to touch an object, I'm going to hold it physically, and I'm going to pick up information through that physical item. Now, this is a little bit different, versus not touching something and expecting to receive a feeling. Sometimes having something physical to touch will actually kick that clairsentience more into gear, or it might have the opposite effect, which it totally does for me. Another way you can use your clairsentience to actually read something is by using my precognitive calendar exercise. And that is basically making a calendar for your upcoming month. And you are going to ask, hey, what's coming my way? What should I know about this month? But you're only picking up information clairsentiently. And you're focusing specifically on that clair. So if you want to learn more about how to do that, check out that video. I think my biggest way that I use clairsentience is basically whenever I'm doing any sort of reading, I just move my energy physically into the group or into that other person's energy. And being in their space actually helps me connect to their energy a little bit more. The biggest thing is you have to remember to pull that back when you're done. And the last reading exercise that I have for you guys is the envelope exercise. And this was like one of the easiest ones to do. And basically what you do, you have to have somebody else help you. They basically print off a picture, or they could write a word on a piece of paper, or heck, you could even like point to a spot in a book, don't look at it. And what you want to do is try to guess what that is. Guess what's in that envelope and say, okay, I'm going to pick up whatever it is clairsentiently. And you can do it a couple times. You can try to wipe the slate clean and try to guess what's in that envelope. And you can do this so many times. This is personally my favorite way of doing it, but it's just another way to engage that clairsentience and actually try to psychically pick up information by asking a question and getting an answer. Alrighty, and the last little bit of information that I wanted to give to you guys about clairsentience is how to turn it off, because I feel like, again, you empaths need it the most sometimes. That's not a general rule, but sometimes you guys have a lot harder time determining what's you and what's not. And obviously my first piece of advice is to learn it more, have more of that body awareness, so that you can determine, okay, what's me and what's not me. And the more you do that, the easier it is to shut it off when it's not you. Now the biggest way obviously is just to shut it off. Do reverse affirmations of like, I don't feel psychic information. I do not receive psychic information clairsentiently. You could even just do a focus on a different clair, like I only receive psychic information clairvoyantly. And you can just set the intention that I will not receive these feelings anymore. The biggest thing I would recommend for you guys is to set bubbles throughout your day. Do those energy checks. Put a bubble around you, protect yourself, make sure that your energy isn't leaking out of that bubble and kind of feeling everybody else, which I feel like happens a lot with empaths, and make sure that inside that bubble isn't anybody else's energy, and you can just mentally be like, I'm sweeping it away. You know, it's gone, it's gone. You don't need anything special to get rid of it. You just have to have the belief in the intention that it's going to work, and then you have to just like actually, I don't know, you have to believe it. If you don't believe it, then it's not going to work. One other exercise that I feel like a lot of empaths probably would benefit from is, again, creating that bubble, but making that bubble have mirrors that face inward. So all you can see is yourself, if that makes sense. And sometimes that's really helpful. For some people that might feel super claustrophobic, but when you really have a hard time keeping your energy with you and not letting anything else in, it can kind of feel protective. You can even make that bubble like out of bricks. And the important thing here is you want to protect yourself, separate your energy, and really understand what's yours and what's not. And once you get more practice, it's going to be easier, I promise. But if with all of this, none of it's working and you're still having a hard time, please just shut it down. Shut it down until you are ready and you are protected. You should not be doing any of my videos or any of these exercises if it's causing negative effects. There's so many people that leave comments on my videos that are like, how dare you recommend these things? This could invite in this or this negative energy. And I always say that if you're having those experiences, do not watch my videos. Turn off your ability, and I will link that video up above if you are feeling like that. And again, you can always come back to it, but the important thing is shutting it off until you understand how to protect yourself, and then you can get into strengthening it. Again, if you want to learn more, check out my video course because I go way more in depth with all of this, and I give you homework and practice exercises and all sorts of good stuff. But I'm very curious how many of you are clairsentient, how many of you want to shut it off, or how many of you don't want to shut it off and just want to strengthen it. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It helps my channel a ton. And remember to check out the other Claire videos so that you can understand a little bit about each of them. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments below. It's so important to me that you guys understand how to work with these, shut them off, feel protected. I do have some playlists here on how to protect yourself. I have a whole playlist on exercises specifically. I have a whole start here playlist as well. So if you're new to all of this, if you're new to my channel, I have the most important information there, and it kind of branches off into the bajillions of videos I feel like I have. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my